Hello, I'm Greg Hunter, and this is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, August 31st, 2012. A new report out by the UN that claims Iran has doubled its number of uranium enrichment machines. This is an ominous new wrinkle in this standoff about Iran's nuclear program with the West. As a matter of fact, the Obama administration said this week that the diplomatic solutions and options are not going to remain on the table, quote, indefinitely, end quote. This is an ominous development that shows we are careening towards war. War is not just a possibility, it is a probability. On the other end of the Middle East, on the eastern side over in Syria, there's a new report out that says the Russians are pulling out, that they're leaving their naval base in Tartus. Now, this is a report that some of you out there will say, come on, it's by depca.com. They say they're inflammatory, they're not really a good source, but I'm going to put the report out there. I'm going to give you the information. And if this report proves to be true, that means Assad is on his own and fighting is going to get ramped up, ugly, and bloody. And the West and the rebels are going to go after Assad to take him down. Now, there's a friend of mine, an Iranian friend of mine, says they want to attack Iran until they can knock out Syria. Oh, are they going to knock out Syria? Does that mean Iran's next? Ominous happenings in the Middle East. Next up, the GOP convention. The big news at the GOP convention is not, Romney's acceptance speech or Orion or any of that stuff. The big news is that I see is that, the Republicans look like they're digging in their heels, that they are going to have tax cuts and they're going to have spending cuts. On the other end of the spectrum, the Democrats at their convention coming up, I'm sure they're going to dig in their heels. And the rhetoric I'm hearing from them is they're going to have, they want tax increases and they don't want spending cuts. Now, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but what this sets up is a careening with the foot on the gas pedal straight for the fiscal cliff. And I know people are saying, well, this November election is going to settle that. Not so fast. I mean, you need a clean sweep by the Democrats in the House, the Senate, and the presidency to avoid this. You need a clean sweep by the Republicans in the House, the Senate, and the presidency to avoid this. But any combination where the Republicans and Democrats are sharing power, say, for example, and this is, the Republicans are going to maintain the House. That's pretty sure. And the Democrats may maintain the Senate. I mean, they had that one Senate candidate out in Missouri that, talked about, the legal rape or whatever it is out there. He blew it. So that kind of weights things, a little towards the Democrats. So, what happens if the Republicans win the House, the Democrats hold on to the Senate, and Romney's the president? Fiscal cliff. What happens if the Republicans win the House, win the Senate, but Obama holds on? Never underestimate the power of the presidency, the incumbency. So, listen, there's a lot of ways for this fiscal cliff to get real ugly, real fast after the election. And a lot of folks on Wall Street are spooked about it, and rightly so. The other big story not talked about at the Republican convention is gold and a Fed audit. And this is a Wall Street Journal article out reiterated that this is part of the Republican platform, that they want a Federal Reserve audit and they want some sort of gold standard or gold weighting or something like that. Now, could this be just a ploy by the GOP to get Ron Paul supporters and voters, the youngest in the field overall? Ron Paul brought in a lot of young people. He is a force to be reckoned with. I think that's the reason why they're talking about a Fed audit and also some sort of gold standard. Could it be just to get their voters and they'll double cross them later? Maybe. I hope not, but maybe. But could it also be that, hey, listen, the folks in the Republican Party know the dollar's in trouble. You have these currency swaps with the number 2 economy, China, and the number 3 economy, Japan. You have currency swaps with China and Russia, and other countries are bypassing the dollar. And, if the dollar loses its world reserve currency status, the United States is going to be in trouble. Now, these folks are not stupid. They sometimes do the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and we all end up suffering, but nobody wants to see the dollar lose its reserve currency status. And we are a global superpower militarily, but we're also a gold superpower. And I know a lot of you folks think that there's no gold in Fort Knox. According to people like James Rickards, we're not stupid enough to lose our 8,000 tons of gold. And we could end up turning things into a gold standard or some sort of gold backing for the dollar to preserve, that reserve currency standard. Maybe we buy 20 years, maybe we buy 10 years. At any rate, we can preserve that status. And I think that may also be the reason. The good news for gold holders and silver holders, if that's the case, is I can't see how that's negative for gold. I just can't see it. Next up, the Federal Reserve. They're having their big meeting. Had their big meeting in Jackson Hole. They're not making any big, announcements. They're not doing, and the reason why. We have 0% interest rates through 2014. They are doing all kinds of Operation Twist and other stuff, and who knows what they're doing behind the scenes that we can't audit them. But we just had good numbers on housing. I think we spent a lot for a 0.5% year over year, housing gains by suppressing interest rates. We had some good, retail numbers out. That was pretty good. Also, the FDIC announced that quarter over quarter, banks earned more money, $34 billion in the quarter. So I don't see any, rushing need for the Federal Reserve to start printing money. However, the Federal Reserve has said, if we have to, basically, we stand ready to act. Well, what could make the Federal Reserve act? Well, could it be war in the Middle East and, oil shooting up to $150 or $200 a barrel? You betcha. Could it be the EU debt crisis and Spanish and Italian bonds going sky high? They need 800 billion bucks, close to $1 trillion to stave that off. And Germany is a big holdup. Could the Fed act there if the EU implodes and the euro implodes? Yes to that. Yes. Could a big bank in the U.S. go under? Rumors are that, one bank, Morgan Stanley, is in trouble. I cannot substantiate that rumor. I do not know. That could be false for all I know, but I'm telling you that is a rumor on the internet. If something like that happens, could we have, some sort of Fed, going into hyperdrive, warp drive to print money? Sure. Yes to all those things. And eventually the Fed will likely print more money. The only question is when. Also up, this week, there's a new report out says, the 50 states are in big trouble. I'd say 49 because North Dakota has oil. They have a, big surplus in that state. But other states are in big trouble. The report says it's more than around $4.2 trillion in red ink and commitments and, unbacked commitments and debt. $4.2 trillion. Illinois just lost its, got a credit rating cut by S&P this last week. They're one of the states in big trouble. And I think that's, that right there is just going to be a continuing drag on the economy. Are states going to raise taxes? Are they going to cut employees and services? The answer to that is probably yes and yes, which is going to be a big drag on the economy. Again, it's not a question of if the Federal Reserve will print money. It's a question of when. Finally out, Hurricane Isaac, and there's good news and bad news. First, the bad news. The poor folks in Louisiana got hammered again. The reports are 25 inches of rain, massive flooding. We've got some looting. Half the state was out of power, and I am sincerely sorry for the folks of Louisiana. At least it wasn't another Katrina, but that's not much comfort. I mean, it's bad down there. The only good news is that this big hurricane is producing a ton of rain and a ton of water, and it's going to go right up through Louisiana, right into Arkansas, into Missouri, and into parts of Iowa and Illinois and Kentucky and Tennessee, and maybe it might get some bands out in Kansas. The good news is with that is it's going to dump some rain up in the Midwest. And the rain in the Midwest has been ravaged by drought. The corn crop is, where they got 150 or 200 bushels to the acre. A friend of mine told me they got 30 bushels to the acre in corn in some spots in Missouri. Some people just bush hog the corn crop under. Too late for the corn. Not too late for beans in some areas. Not too late for other crops that they'll plant in the future to raise the water table, winter wheat. And that's good news. One friend of mine said, hey, this rain might mean for beans, might mean another 10 bushels to the acre. That is at least some good news from Hurricane Isaac. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.